lot of headlines to cover for the American Grand Prix, Circuit of the Americas. What do we have as the biggest headlines for this weekend and things to look out for in the future? Let's start off with the little Max Verstappen news that's coming out. It's actually him talking in an interview saying that he's open to a future move to Ferrari. Now, in my opinion, Max going to Ferrari, does that cement his legacy? Let's say he finishes his contract here at Red Bull till 2028 and he still wants to compete in the sport because every other day he's talking about quitting. But in this article, he kind of gives us a hint towards going further in the sport, maybe driving for Ferrari. There have been pictures of him when he's young, being in a Ferrari little jumpsuit. So, I mean, every Formula One fan is a Ferrari fan. This kind of goes with the nature with loving our sport. But does something like this cement his legacy? I think if he keeps winning till 2028, I mean, this guy has already cemented his legacy as one of the greatest in our sport. For me, personally, and I think him making a Ferrari move and maybe even bringing him up, taking a little bit off of Schumacher, that would be pretty insane, and that would cement him as a GOAT if he can do that. So it would be cool to see him in a Ferrari suit. I've always wanted to see Lewis in one. I'd love to see Max. It's always cool to see these legends and these amazing drivers take a jab at trying to get Ferrari back to the top. I'd love to see it. I think this is a cool little thing that he put out, and I love how he states what he's talking about, that he's open to the move, and how much he's loved Ferrari ever since he's really been in the sport. So I think it's a cool little thing. Next thing is something that has been addressed before, but let's talk about it now. New reports claim Stroll's mother could lead huge F1 decisions. So everybody's favorite driver, Lance Stroll, is looking to leave the sport. Why would we want that? That would be horrible. But regardless, his mother says putting pressure on him, mainly to do with his crashes and having a couple of involvements in obviously that big crash in Singapore. That's where the first article came out, that his mother, Claire, and St. Stroll is putting out this kind of, that she's talking to him and trying to convince him not to be in the sport anymore. I wonder if this is really true. It's kind of like a little rumor, somewhat being talked about. I don't really think this is going to happen. I think Stroll's going to make his own decision. It could happen next year. We'll have to see, but this is something that I saw being mentioned before. Wanted to share the Haas livery and talk about it from my personal opinion. I think this is a complete downgrade from what they had last year. Last year, yes, the car didn't have as much on it, but the overalls looked much better. I think this livery and combination does not look great with the black. I think it's kind of whatever. I like that they put "We Are the People" and the American flag, even though this team is completely not American. But regardless of that fact, though, I'm not a fan of the car. I don't think it suits it. This black and white and yeah, the MoneyGram logo, it just looks odd. I can't lie, it's just a very odd looking livery. Not a fan. Comment down below what you guys think. I'd love to hear your personal opinion. And when you're commenting, please subscribe. It would mean the world for me. We're actually killing it on subscribers and views, so thank you so much for the support. Genuinely means the world. Let's get to 12K quickly. Thank you all so much. Next thing to talk about is Aston Martin wants to prove F1 car handling shift is hurting Stroll. So recently, Lance actually talked in an interview saying that the car and the characteristics of the car are not suiting his driving style. So the driving style that is not suiting him is not even suiting really Fernando to a degree. But Lance is saying that he's more adaptable, which adaptability is part of the sport. I mean, if you think back to Mika Hakkinen and driving with two different pedals in that McLaren, what he was able to achieve, it makes you think that's a legend. Then you got Lance Stroll. Now listen, I don't want it to be a bashing hour of Lance Stroll because we all know we can talk about him for ages about how bad of a driver and why he's in our sport and so on. I don't want to say that. He's not a bad driver, but he needs to adapt better. This is part of our sport. To actually have a fast car, you need to adapt. You need to have different driving styles. It proves from legends and from other drivers that sometimes cars will be awkward. The famous Williams with its active suspension, Nigel Mansell said he hated the car and did not want to drive it. I actually have a whole video about it if you want to check that out. The video is actually a banger, so go ahead and look at it for me. Regardless, that video, I talk about how weird it was for him to adjust that car. That car is known to be one of the greatest cars. If not for this RB19, that would be known as the greatest car to ever live in Formula One. So adaptability is part of our sport. Don't want to hear Lance crying about it and them having to shift the car into more handling. Obviously the car is not fast. It needs to shift for both the drivers, but Lance needs to adapt. Another thing that was being talked about in the news was Andretti will not be left without F1 engine supply, says FIA. So practically the whole entire Renault deal has kind of fallen through, but at the same time, they're still kind of looking into it. There were rumors that Ferrari was going to go with them. Now Honda is kind of saying that they would make an engine with them. Now listen, Honda is supposed to be exclusive to Aston Martin, but I know that the engine will be focused towards Aston Martin, but if they actually give a little bit into Andretti, that'd be kind of funny because Lawrence just came out, you know, big boss coming out saying, now listen, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I hate that statement. I think that's so unfair. It is broke. We need more teams, so it needs fixing. Lawrence obviously is going to say, oh, well, the prize pool and this and this. So I get it from his perspective. I get it from any team's perspective. They don't want it. But do the fans a favor. Bring in Andretti. He's a legend. He would provide a lot for our sports. He'd provide a lot more than some of the lower end teams. I think so. They're a team with legacy. Well, he's with legacy, and so is his father. And it will just bring a lot to the sport to have an 11th team. It brings more American fans. And I think it would attract a lot more eyes bringing in an actual full-out American team, not Haas. The name Haas isn't even American. So, yes, neither is Andretti. But regardless, please give us an American team. I think that would be fair enough. So, there was this whole entire investment thing that happened with Ryan Reynolds recently and a couple of other actors and people that were involved. It was for Alpine. Now, more people were announced to be thrilled to add to new F1 investment with Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce. You might as well call him Taylor Swift. I hope you guys get that joke. And then you also have people like Anthony Joshua joining in. I love him as a boxer. I think he's actually great. One of my favorites, personally. Comment down below some boxers that you guys like if you watch the sport. Regardless, they're investing now into the Alpine portfolio. I think it's pretty cool that we're getting these celebrities involved. I don't really know what this means. Will we actually see them? Maybe some of them will actually come to the Austin Grand Prix. We might actually see a couple of these guys that are invested into this team. It's cool and all for them to invest, but the team's got to look into actually performing well. It's all cool and all that you have money, but you need to also step it up, Renault or Alpine. It'd be nice for you guys to actually step it up in the sports because it's a team that I think is missing from this top 5. Imagine 6 teams all competing with Red Bull. It would be great. Hopefully this happens in 2024. Is my hope high? Not really, but we shall have to see. Another cool thing that I wanted to bring up was Disney Plus sets the release date for Braun GP F1 docu-series. So this involves my twin, Keanu Reeves, and Jenson Button. Obviously it's talking about the Braun GP's team, their famous Formula 1 2009 championship with Jenson Button. If you don't know the story, they had a car that in the beginning of the year was amazing because they actually invented a trick that no other team had on the grid. And teams ended up actually copying that towards the middle of the season. That's when it got competitive, but Jenson Button was actually able to hold on, fight off Sebastian Vettel in 2009, and take a championship with a team that was bought out for $1. $1 this team was bought out for. This team was originally Honda. They made a nasty car that Ross Brawn made even better, added a couple tweaks to it, and this gem came out. I mean, it's a insane story. It's even bigger than the growth that we saw for Aston Martin in the beginning of the year. Think of that times 10. There never will be something like this in Formula 1 again because it was so extreme at its time. That 18 that was bought out for so little, that had like one sponsor on the car. The car was just a plain out white with black and it has that like accented yellow color. Hopefully they do this well because it's a big story that if you can correctly do it, should be very cool. But they got to go, Keanu Reeves in it. I love Keanu, obviously. Trying to copy his hairstyle right now, kind of in that little in-between phase. I think it can be well done. It's more known for his motorcycles, but it's pretty cool to see him getting involved with a little bit of Formula 1. Let's see what type of action can come out of this. I think we need something better than Drive to Survive because I don't think the new Drive to Survive season might not be that spicy like it was in 2022. Hopefully it shocks me, but we shall have to see. This is really it for the headlines coming into the United States Grand Prix, but a lot to cover here, so stick with me. Thank you guys so much for the support. Please leave a like, subscribe. It would mean the world. And peace.